Welcome back to the Aethernum News Network, the New World podcast. And this is episode 2. And unlike my Sea of Thieves podcast, I thought we would do something fun with this one and do it live on Twitch. So going forward on Friday nights, starting around 6 or 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you can come over to twitch.tv/Davrim. And we're going to be recording the episodes of the Aethernum News Network podcast. So if you are listening on an app or you're watching it on YouTube and you would like to come in and kind of be like a caller on a radio show, because that's kind of how I treat my podcast, is a caller on a radio show, and a radio show style format, it'll give you the opportunity to kind of join in the conversations, kind of, be part of the show, as it were. Obviously, you would get the show early because you're part of it. You're watching it, right? And then it goes out to everyone else. So obviously, there's advertising and stuff on Twitch, so maybe you might not get all the bits and pieces if an ad's running or something like that. But again, it will go out in a couple days afterwards once I download it from Twitch and chop it up and put it on YouTube and get it out to the podcasting app. So that's what we're going to do. That is what we're going to do. I think it's a cool idea. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And like I said, it might be something new. I guess I don't have a lot of time to consume as much content as I want to, but I know a lot of podcasts are just recorded or something like that. And there's not necessarily, unless it's a special occasion, a live chat that has an option to tune in and also, participate. And then also, folks can listen to it and maybe decide, hey, I want to come over to Twitch and take part as well. So episode 2, A&N episode 2, we've got to finish talking about the rest of Into the Void. So there's a couple weapons we didn't get to in episode 1. We've got the Spear, Rapier, Fire Staff, Ice Gauntlet, and Sword to take a look at some of their changes that were going on. And then we also have I played a lot about with the Ice Gauntlet, and there's some things I want to talk about that, and some issues that New World had with the Ice Gauntlet. There's still some issues, honestly, out there with the Ice Gauntlet that they haven't completely addressed yet, but it's much better than it was when it launched. So we'll talk about that a little bit, because honestly, when we did episode 1, what happened in a lot of that discussion was we talked about the rocky launch of New World. If you've played New World or you're just now getting into New World, it had a very rocky launch with servers being twofold, rolling out a whole bunch of new servers, gold duping issues, armor duping issues, weapon bugs, immunities. If you've played, New World, or you tried it right at launch and kind of stepped away, well, now it's getting better. It's getting better. It's still not great. It's still not, polished and where a lot of players want it to be, and where players are expecting it to be, coming from a company like Amazon, even though Amazon Gaming is small. It's made a lot of strides, and I think they're doing the right thing, taking feedback. I think some of their processes are a little off, but we'll see how it goes. We're only a couple months into the launch, and I'll tell you, it's more polished than some other games out there, especially games for services, like monthly games, 24-hour games that are up all the time. They don't have the matchmaking server style rounds like a Valorant or something like that. This game is literally live all the time. So if there's an issue, it can cause a lot of problems, because they're only resetting the servers, once a week, twice a week, or whenever there's some sort of major issue. So let's finish going through our weapons here, and then we will take a peek at kind of what's been happening over Thanksgiving. And I hope everyone had a great Thanksgiving. I hope people had a good time, got to spend time with family, friends, and if you didn't, still got to enjoy a lot of good food, even if it was takeout or something. But yeah. So the spear, some changes to the spear when we got into the void here. They say our goal was to buff and adjust some of the lesser used abilities to make a wider selection of abilities feel more viable. And this is kind of their approach to all of the different weapons that we've had here in this patch, was to maybe balance some of the more popular weapons, more popular abilities, but really give a better scaling and a better buff to abilities that people aren't using in order to make all points that you spend in the talent tree to be viable, right? If you're running Rapier, there's really no reason, as we we'll see or have seen, there's no really reason to run the bleed tree. Let's be honest. Maybe in PvE, but especially in PvP, there is no reason to run the bleed tree. And so this patch, and when it's looking at these different weapons, it has really been focused on trying to make less used talents, less used parts of the tree more viable so people can be more creative with their weapon build-outs. And I can tell you, it's working because there's a lot more weapon variety out there, and there's a lot more sciencing of different things. I'm seeing some crazy builds, not only in the game, but also people doing videos about them. It's absolutely outstanding to see. So I'm glad that they're doing that. So let's look at the spear. So adjusted the distance the player moved towards the target when doing a heavy attack. So again, the spear has a huge closing range when you're doing a heavy attack. There's a large jump there. The heavy attack was pulling the user too close previously, resulting in a deadly reach passive not being able to trigger consistently. Again, Deadly Reach is a great ability with your heavy attack with the spear, especially with all the crowd control combos in that particular weapon. So making sure that that's triggering properly is huge for the spear users. So the leg sweep into coup de grace increases the damage scaling for 125 to 150. This attack is now flagged as heavy, allowing it to trigger heavy related passives. So first off, I'm not quite sure why they targeted leg sweep coup de grace, because they talk about adjusting lesser used ability to make a wider selection of abilities viable on the spear. I don't think I've ever seen a spear user not have leg sweep into coup de grace. It is a crowd control ability, and it gives you a nice punch of damage, especially if you've got certain ability points triggered because they're a downed enemy. You are attacking them for 125% damage, plus you're getting the downed bonuses on that. Now, increasing that to 150% damage, and on top of that, triggering heavy attack style passives, this is huge. I mean, I've seen a lot of spear users, and again, I read through these patches and I kind of had a feeling why this, but in a dueling situation, or even to be honest, in a large scale PvP situation, leg sweep hits everyone around you. So you could get a good leg sweep in there, allow your teams to hit thing, and coup de grace on someone and do a ridiculous amount of damage now. So I'm not surprised I'm seeing a lot more spear, but I don't necessarily think leg sweep into coup de grace needed this much of an adjustment. This looks like a huge adjustment to me. I haven't ran spear for a while, but I might pick it up to test it out. I mean, I'm using the sword already, although I'm keeping the sword because I'm landed on tank. I've landed on sword and board, but I'm thinking about switching from strength to intelligence. Don't at me. I have a reason. We'll talk about it once I test it out and see if it's good or not. There is a reason I'm looking to do that. So, but I could easily pick up the spear because its secondary scales off of strength. So I could pick up the spear now and test it out. Skewer. Now this is one that early on a lot of people were playing around, but very quickly Skewer became an ability that, to be honest, kind of became a throwaway. Increases bleed damage from 10% to 20%. So a nice little buff there, up to 20% bleed damage on Skewer. So that's nice. Not a huge change. Again, Skewer was definitely a viable attack, but not as popular as some of the other ones. So maybe this will bring up the popularity in Skewer. Perforate. This was, if I remember right, a popular attack. That's the multiple. Right, increased damage scaling from 70% to 80%, so not a huge change there, and fixed a bug which caused the passive continuous motion to not reduce the cooldown of Perforate. So a good change there, not a huge buff to that ability, but again, it was a very popular ability to use. Now, here is the one ability that I wanted to see them buff majorly. I don't necessarily see it buffed majorly here, but it is a significant increase, and that is Cyclone. No one is running Cyclone. Personally, I think the majority of the community thinks the Cyclone is bad. I have seen some people try it out, but in general, Cyclone is definitely kind of the shit tier of the spear, and this will help it out a little bit. I don't know if it fixes it. I don't know if it makes it a really viable skill still, but increase the damage scaling from 110% to 130%. That is a significant increase to the Cyclone ability, but does it flip it over? Does it change it to something that's viable? I'm not 100% sure. I don't know. I think when you read the ability, and I think looking at it in terms of a war or something like that, I could see it being something that might be useful, but again, no one's running it, and I haven't seen too many builds that even think about it, and most people just poo-poo on it. So I think this buff is nice. I think they could have done more with it, though, to make this ability actually something that people are going to consider taking. Vault Kick, another staple, just like Sweep, so I don't expect this to change too much. Fixed an issue where Vault Kick's cooldown began 1 frame before the hitbox would appear. This resulted in the ability going on cooldown if the attack was interrupted early, even if it didn't hit. So, not a buff, not a change, just a bug fix here. So this is absolutely fine. I'm pretty sure every single spear user out there uses Vault Kick. It's just kind of the ability that you have when you spear is Sweep and Vault Kick. So I was surprised to see Sweep into coup de grace getting a buff, especially that significant of a buff. I'm not surprised Vault Kick didn't get anything. I would guess that coup de grace should have probably been more like Vault Kick. I think the increase in damage in coup de grace, okay, I will accept it. Adding the flagged heavy attack to it, though, getting the heavy passives, that's a huge buff to coup de grace. And yeah, just a massive buff there. Just huge. It's huge. All right, it's huge. All right, so the next one we have to talk about is the Rapier. And I already mentioned the Rapier briefly by saying no one takes the bleed tree. I know from talking to friends that are playing and things like that, that the bleed tree was focused here a lot. But in general, I think what they should have focused on was nerfing the evade tree, right? Because it was broken as shit. Like, it's still broken. Like, I'm pretty sure since this patch has dropped, I still haven't seen many people running any of the bleeds. They're still running all the invade shit because it all stacks on top of each other, and it causes a lot of damage and gives you a lot of maneuverability in battles. So this is what they say about the Rapier. We fixed an issue with Tondo, Flourish, and Fletch, and their cooldown begin 1 frame before the hitbox would appear. This results in abilities going on cooldown if the attack was interrupted early. So just like the spear, just an issue there with when the cooldown happens, but no real change there. Flurry. Improve the homing of Flurry to fix the issues where subsequent attacks would frequently miss or be hard to hit. So that's good. The Flurry is the attack that you going crazy with your Rapier. One that I think early was being used, and then again, when people realized how powerful the evasion tree was, kind of moved away from the Flurry attack. Tondo, so this is your main bleed ability, right? Reduce the cooldown from 11 seconds to 6 seconds. A 5-second reduction in cooldown there. That's massive, especially with keeping bleeds up on targets and doing extra damage when you have bleeds on targets. So that's huge. And again, fixed an issue causing this upgrade to only function on blocking targets. So that's good there. Riposte. Now, I've got a lot of issues with Riposte, and I'm just gonna spill the beans right now. Riposte is overpowered. Okay, so I get it. It's in my opinion, and someone mentioned this, and I didn't think about it at the time. Riposte is modeled after, if you've ever played League of Legends, Riposte is modeled after Fiora in League of Legends. And Fiora has a riposte ability that basically, if you time it properly, any incoming attack will just be mitigated by the riposte and trigger whatever. So it is based off of that. My issue with that is, and I had an issue with this in League of Legends, my issue with this is, tell me how you riposte a fireball. Tell me how you repost. Yeah, I guess you could maybe repost an ice shard, right? It's a solid matter object. You can knock it away. But tell me how you repost a fireball or an energy ball from a void gauntlet or a life staff. How do you repost that? I guess you could repost an arrow. I guess if you're cool enough, and we see it in movies, you could repost a bullet, right? That's a physical object. But some of the magic abilities make zero sense on how you can repost it. Furthermore, a thing like a warhammer or a great axe, there ain't no way that little flexible piece of metal is going to repost that weapon. It's just not going to happen. A spear, okay, maybe it's a little smaller, it's a little lighter. You can kind of, okay, maybe, right? A sword, sure. Another rapier, absolutely. A hatchet, okay. A great axe and it just doesn't make sense. But again, we're in a fantasy world, whatever. Repost a fireball for all I care. The issue I have with repost is the iframes that you get. Because if you're good at using the evade tree of the rapier, you can basically repost and dodge and have almost unlimited iframes if you're good and you've got good movement. It's a very high skill weapon, and there are a lot of high skill players out there who know how to use it. But it's absolutely ridiculous. The iframes that you get with this weapon, with repost and with the dodging abilities, it's asinine and it needs fixed. So when I went in and saw the rapier tweaking, what I didn't expect was any sort of buff to repost, and it has the most items here. So repost now has a cooldown reduction from 20 to 12 seconds. So almost a half of its cooldown is now dropped. So you're going to be in more iframe hell when you're fighting a rapier player. And the really good rapier players, they're going to be able to repost everything you send at them. The base stun duration increased from 1.5 seconds to 2 seconds, so a half second increase on stun. Stuns are huge in this game. When you get a stun off on someone, you can punish them, especially as a rapier player, because you're stunning them and then you're getting behind them and doing stupid amounts of backstab damage. Lasting consequence, stun duration increased from 2 to 2.5 seconds. And also keep in mind, if you're in a group, if you're in a war, now given in a war, a rapier player is probably not going to be doing too much, at least from what I've seen. A lot of people around, a lot of AoE. There's a lot of things you can repost, and if you get a good repost off, you can basically stun their entire army if they're kind of that great axe, hammer, death ball style that we see so often in New World. Because you repost one attack, you've got anyone around you is going to get stunned. And that absolutely sucks. I'm not quite sure how one person reposting a great axe, which makes zero sense, is going to stun with their elbow, flipping around and elbow smacking 20 people standing around them. It makes zero sense. It really does. Like, I could see it stunning one person. I could maybe see it stunning two people. But literally, it will stun everyone surrounding that particular rapier player if they get a successful repost off. It makes no sense. It makes zero sense. So I was really surprised to see the buff on repost. I'm glad I don't see other buffs to the evade tree. I'm glad they focused on that bleed tree section because that really needs some love. I don't think they did enough, though. I think they needed to put more love into that bleed tree and really nerf the shit out of the evade tree just because it's OP right now. And I'm sorry, rapier players. I've played rapier. I've done it. I've murdered people with it. I get it. It's a fun weapon, and again, it's a high skill weapon to be good at, but it really needs balance. It's not balanced at all. A good rapier player will kill anyone, and that's just how it is. And I'm not trying to pick on rapier players here and saying, well, you know, I'm going to punish you because you're good. No, I'm going to punish you because it's overpowered. That's why I'm punishing you. Bring it back down, make it more even keel. That's all I'm saying. Passives also got changed in the rapier. Momentum, one of their ultimates, increases bonus damage from 25% to 30%, again, giving a lot of advantage to that evade tree. Swiftness fixed an issue where the passive was granting haste from bleed damage ticks instead of actual weapon hits. So that's a good fix. Again, kind of nerfs the blood tree or the bleed tree if you ask me, but it was a fix to a bug, and it makes sense what they're doing there. All right, so that's the rapier. So kind of weird changes there. I'm not quite sure what their thought process was behind that, but that's what they chose to do. Next one is the fire staff. Now, the Fire Staff definitely had some bugs going into this patch. I still see a lot of Fire Staff users. I still enjoy Fire Staff. In fact, I'm Constitution Strength right now, and I'm kind of a fill-in in my war party. So I'll fill any group, any role, whatever they need me to do with my sword and board. I was on siege in the last war we did, and I literally pulled out my Fire Staff, no intelligence whatsoever, and just started to chuck fireballs at the enemy. On the points or the people attacking siege. I was just lobbing fireballs, right? If you want to see that war, you want to see me sword and board, Fire Staff, strength con, lobbing fireballs off the wall between repairs and filling ammo, you can check it out on my YouTube, Davrim TV on YouTube. It's the Stiff versus Spark for Hire war on the Yes server, defending Everfall. I mean, literally, I entered the battle with a sword and a hammer, was filled into the siege group to help with repairs and stuff like that. And you know, I take leadership, so I give bonus damage to all of our people in our group, which were all musket bow users, which is great for them. But I wasn't doing it. I was just kind of like, okay, if I don't have something to repair and I don't have something to reload, like, what the hell do I do? And I'm like, wait, I have a Fire Staff. I don't have any intelligence, but damage is damage. I just started lobbing shit. It was great. There's this life staff user at this one moment who was right up against our wall. And I don't know why the life staff user was pushed so far ahead in order to do this, but he was wedged right up against our wall and just pew, pew at one of our cannons. And I literally just fireballed down in his face and then pillar of flamed on him, and he took off running. Like, it didn't do that much damage, but I mean, apparently it made him pee himself or something, because he took off running he was terrified. So changes to Fire Staff. We updated the Fire Staff to reduce some of the effectiveness of standard attacks due to how powerful they felt in comparison to certain abilities, and updated some abilities to feel more powerful. That is actually pretty accurate. The heavy attack of the Fire Staff felt really strong. Sometimes, you know, you would do a heavy attack with a with your Fire Staff and do about the same amount of damage as a non-crit fireball. So it made the fireball, it made some of the abilities feel kind of bad compared to just spam heavy attacking. Now, with that being said, there are also abilities that I think really need buffed on the fire tree because they're basically useless right now and no one's playing them. So let's see what they do. Pillar of Fire increases the damage scaling from 134% to 170%. That is a massive buff, almost a 40% increase of damage in Pillar of Fire, which is a staple in Fire Staff builds. I don't know really of many Fire Staff players who don't use Pillar of Fire. Is it hard to hit in PvP? It can be. Is it easy to hit in PvE? Absolutely. And I'm not sure if this is a bug or not. But I see here down here, fixed an issue that causes Pillar of Fire to hit twice against targets near the edge of the effect. If the target is standing in the effect, so if it gets stunned or something like that when you set it off and they stay in there for the duration, they will get hit twice. But it looks like there might have been a bug where if you're just outside of it and shouldn't get hit twice, you're still getting hit twice. So maybe that was the bug. I don't know if it's supposed to hit twice, but damn, does it do a lot of damage if it does hit twice. Fixed an issue where Pillar of Fire targets the caster when activated using the ability key. I have had that hit me. That kind of sucks. Kind of just a waste there. Fixed an issue that causes Pillar of Fire to hit twice against targets near the effect. Okay, that's great. We just mentioned that. Fixed an issue where Pillar of Fire failed to trigger Rune of Helios when activated using the ability key. And that's kind of big, right? Runes of Helios is like a massive damage increase to the Fire Staff users. And having one of their abilities potentially bug out and not actually utilize that bonus, it is kind of big. Now, this is the ability that no one uses, Meteor Shower. It is a long cast time. It doesn't, its range is kind of meh, its area is kind of meh, and it's channeled. So you're just a sitting duck while you're casting it. And the only thing they did to this is fixed an issue where Rune of Helios triggered on targeting Meteor Shower rather than on casting it. So you weren't getting any effect of Runes of Helios. Yes, Meteor Shower in a war or an outpost rush can put up a lot of numbers. But is it really doing much in terms of killing? Probably not. It might kill people who are already downed, but in general, it's probably not doing a whole lot of killing. It'll pad your numbers and it'll make your damage numbers look really high, and maybe that's some of the analytics that they're using in order to not buff this ability. I think this ability needs a decent rework. I think it could be more like a World of Warcraft ability where you target an area, you summon down, you do like a 1-second cast and summon down a rain, and you can keep on moving and let that rain keep hitting that area. I think that would make Meteor Shower a lot more effective and a lot better. Fireball added additional clarity that the Fireball ability is not able to crit. Previously, it would show the crit damage color, but not actually deal increased damage. It will no longer show orange damage numbers, and an additional tooltip was added. All right, cool. So no big change to Fireball. Didn't really expect too much of a change here. Again, the heavy attack of this ability, when you're hitting the heavy attack on the Fire Staff, and it's hitting pretty much the same sometimes as a Fireball with 300 int, it kind of feels bad. I expected a little damage boost out of Fireball, but I personally think the Fireball or the Fire Staff in general was in a pretty good place going into this patch. Again, some bug fixes needed done, but yeah. Another ability that no one was using, and now I see a little bit more of that, and that's Flamethrower. Increases damage scaling from 34 to 50%, so a nice increase there. I still don't think a lot of players are going to use it. I don't think this ability is still viable long term, because again, you are a sitting duck. You're casting this fire shooting out of your stick, and it's not actually, doing much, right? In a war situation, if someone sees someone coming at them with a fire stick, here comes Path, here comes, Hammer Stun, here comes whatever it is to hit you and punish you for just standing there and holding your staff, not rolling or anything like that. It's just, I don't know. You can get a lot of damage just like a meteor shower if you get in the right position and kind of sneak into a big death ball and shoot some fire into them. You can do a lot of damage, but is it really viable? Is it really effective in a war situation? No. Will it work? Will both those abilities, shower and flamethrower, will they work really well in PvE? Absolutely. But when it comes to PvP, which again, the end game of this game is really, it needs a lot of tweaking and rework to make it really viable. Passive changings. Clear casting reduces damage bonus from 10% to 5%. Okay. Clear mind reduces empower effectiveness from 10% to 5%. Runes of Helios reduce damage bonus from 30% to 25%. Prophet of Fire God reduces crit damage bonus from 20% to 15%. Spellslinger reduces crit chance bonus from 15 to 10. Fixed an issue where crit chance was increased for standard attacks and not just abilities. Pyromania reduces damage bonus from 10 to 20. So a lot of nerfs here to the overall damage of the Fire Staff, which I guess is okay. It did feel, as far as the ranged abilities went, let's just say bow, musket, and Fire Staff, as far as the more long range, downwind kind of projectiles, Fire Staff did kind of feel like the strongest out of all of them. It's a lot easier to hit with, and it did a lot more damage, in my opinion. One of the reasons I switched from bow, musket to Fire Staff for a while was because of that. So we're seeing that kind of coming back down. Let's see here. Kindle fixed an issue causing Kindle to increase buff duration by an incorrect amount. Bug fixes. Reheat reduces the time without activating ability to trigger reheat from 6 seconds to 4 seconds. Okay. Updated the Singe and Watch It Burn passives to mix up the functionality. Singe went from inflicting burn on critical hits to triggering burn on light attacks. That's a good change. I like that. That way you can keep your burn stacks up. Watch It Burn now inflicts burn on critical hits from abilities only. I like that. It allows you to keep those burn stacks up with your light attacks, and allows you to get burn infliction on critical still of your abilities. All right, so what do we got next? I think it's Ice Gauntlet next, right? Ice Gauntlet. The big bad Ice Gauntlet. And I think of all the weapons in this particular patch, Life Staff was pretty long to talk about last week. I think Ice Gauntlet might have the most changes of all of the weapons from this last patch. Ice Golems are really popular. It's ran across the board with a lot of different things. You've got, well, now you have Void Gauntlet, Ice Gauntlet, you got Fire Staff, Ice Gauntlet, you've got Life Staff, Ice Gauntlet, you got Rapier, Ice Gauntlet. There's a lot of combos that the Ice Gauntlet has. You got Hammer, Ice Gauntlet, you've got Sword and Board, Ice Gauntlet. There are so many combos that use the Ice Gauntlet. So I think maybe because there are so many Ice Gauntlets in the wild and how powerful it is with the Entomb ability, with the slowness and the stun abilities, I really think that they saw that and took a hit at it. Now, I think the Warhammer, honestly, needed more of a change to those stuns, but we'll see what they do here with the Ice Gauntlet. Our goal with the Ice Gauntlet was to tone down the effectiveness of some of the maxed out combinations of abilities while still maintaining their individual usefulness. Again, so bringing that crowd control side down on the Ice Gauntlet because it's really powerful. Heavy attacks, increased heavy attacks startup and recovery. So it's consistent with other magic weapons. Fixed an issue where the Ice Gauntlet movement while attacking was faster than other magic weapons. Fixed an issue where basic attacks on the Ice Gauntlet could sometimes shoot through an enemy without dealing damage. That's good. Hit registration. As a Sea of Thieves player, I understand it. Ice Storm. So this is your little globe of ice. Increased time between damage ticks from 25 seconds to 33 seconds. That's actually really good. Really, really good, actually, because that thing is ridiculous. Fixed an issue where Ice Storm did no damage if a player had the Unending Thaw item perk. Fixed an issue where Ice Storm didn't do damage to enemies immune to slow. Fixed an issue where Ice Storm stopped if the caster swapped to their other active weapon. So good changes there, and I'm glad they increased the time between damage ticks on that. That's actually really good. Ice Spike, a very underutilized ability in the Ice Tree, and I've seen a little bit more of it now. Fixed an issue where Ice Spike displayed a cast timer despite being cast instantly. Not a big change there to have Ice Spike kind of crop up a little bit more. I think Ice Spike is like Meteor Shower and a couple other abilities. I think it needs a complete and total rework in order to make it more viable, because right now it's really not being used a whole lot. It's kind of a throwaway ability. Some people are using it with good success, but I really think it needs a rework. Ice Shower increased its cooldown from 20 seconds to 30 seconds. So that's a significant nerf. And it's a good nerf too. Ice Shower was an ability that in duels or even in wars could really shut down people because of the frozenness of it. So increasing that cooldown, I think, is a good idea. Entomb players can no longer be healed. Thank you. This is good, right? So Entomb, there's perks and stuff that allow you to heal and stuff. But what would happen, especially Life Staff users, right? So Ice Staff or Ice Gauntlet, Life Staff, the combo was, if you're getting assaulted, you drop your beacon, you drop your Sacred Gown, and you Entomb. So you're healing everyone around you, and you're healing yourself for whatever damage you took while the thing. That's not good. That was way overpowered. Healers were already hard to kill. Trust me, I played a healer for a long time at the start of this game. They're already hard to heal, or are already hard to kill. Giving them the ability to be immune to damage for any amount of time with healing circles on the ground, absolutely ridiculous. So good. This is awesome. Reduce the health of Entomb to 50% of the player's max health. This is also good because light armor or light wearers or people who are not focusing so much on Constitution have much less health, and that Entomb was an ability for them to, really harden up and become really hard to kill, especially with all the perks. Well, now you've got to understand that you've got to have some Constitution in there to make Entomb good. Reduce damage of breakout burst attack from 168% to 70%. Let me say that again. Reduce the breakout attack damage from 168% to 70%. That is insane. Insane. That is a huge nerf. Fix the issue where invulnerability on Entomb could be removed while the tomb was still active. Good fix. Fixes the issues that allowed players to move while in tomb after dying. That's kind of funny. So good changes there in my opinion to Entomb. It brought it back in line, and now healers who run Ice Gauntlet, they've got some survivability, but definitely not as much as they used to. Ice Pylon, another ability that in general is not getting used that much. And it's really sad because in that particular tree, it is the ultimate. Like, that is the ultimate. And I've got some ideas that we might talk about in future episodes, what they could do to make the Ice Pylon more useful. But we'll get to that in a later episode. Increase the Pylon's health by 20%. Okay. Added a max lifetime of 45 seconds to the Ice Pylon. Again, there were different ways to keep that Ice Pylon up for a very long time, even infinitely. So that was a good change there. Fixed an issue where the Ice Pylon could consume mana, but wouldn't activate on slopes, terrain, or... Fixed an issue where Ice Pylon could consume mana, but wouldn't activate on slopes, terrain, or off a ledge. Okay, so it would take your mana, but not put the pylon down. Got it. Fixed an issue that allowed players to place multiple Ice Pylons at a time by dying and being revived. Now, again, we'll talk about my ideas of how to make this particular ability better. And one of the ideas that I have is multiple Ice Pylons. Or make you the Ice Pylon and you shoot things off you. Like, you have icicles around you, kind of like an Ice Mage in World of Warcraft. You've got icicles around you that automatically like home in and shoot. I think that would make the ability a lot better. Or just give you 2 Ice Pylons that you slam your gauntlet down and 2 pylons come up, right? I think that ultimate would be a little bit better and make this ability maybe a little bit more playable. Fixed an issue with the Ice Pylon targeting neutral players or AI enemies during a 1v1 duel. That's good. It needs a smart AI for that kind of stuff. Passive changes for the Ice Gauntlet. Ultimate Chill reduces the Ultimate Chill's bonus damage from 35% to 25%. Fixed an issue where Ultimate Chill's ability would not apply to enemies in some cases. And updated Ultimate Chill's tooltip wording to better clarify its functionality. Critical Frost reduced to critical reduce critical change damage from 25% to 15%. So decent and significant nerfs here to the Ice Gauntlet's damage, which again, they said that's what that's what their plan was, and the Ice Gauntlet did need to be brought down a little bit. Energized critical, reduced the critical damage from 15 to 10. Heavy Freeze added a 5-second cooldown to the freeze effect. Fixed an issue to allow enemies with this passive to root players standing in their own ice storm. That sucks. Fixed an issue where the iced refresh item perk could activate on both downing and killing a player. Now it only triggers on downing. So that's also another good change there, bringing the Ice Gauntlet down. Overall, I think the changes to Ice Gauntlet are warranted, are good. I think they still need a lot more work on the Ice Pylon ability and the Ice Spike ability. I think those abilities still need to be looked at very heavily because they're still not getting played. So there you go on that. And last, but certainly not least, and probably the one with the least amount of changes, and the weapon that I use, the sword. The sword and shield. Our main goal for sword and shield updates were to make the leaping strike ability feel better and to improve the buffering of heavy attacks to make them more consistent. So fixed an issue where basic attacks buffers and cancels weren't working properly during the sword heavy attack. Fixed an issue where the fully charged sword heavy attack had different timings than the regular heavy attack. Shield Rush, which I don't use. Improved Shield Rush increases the weakened duration from 4 seconds to 10 seconds. That's actually pretty good. Again, I don't really use Shield Rush, but there's a reason for that. Leaping Strike reduced the cooldown from 25 seconds to 18 seconds. Not a huge reduction there. Leaping Strike is really good. I'm actually running it right now. You'll probably see it if you're in the stream. You'll probably see it when I launch the game. That is an ability I'm using right now. I think the homing on that ability needs changed a little bit because you'll dive at someone and they can move, and it's like a waste ability, right? It's kind of getting to them. You can't adjust where you're aiming when you're in the air already, so it's kind of like, screwed. Increased damage scaling from 135% to 150, so a little buff there. Speed up the recovery after using Leaping Strike to make it easier to transition into other attacks. I've noticed that. It's good. Cowardly Punishment. Updated the description to include slow percentage value. So not huge changes to the sword, but again, the sword and board is kind of the staple weapon in this game. It's pretty good already. I think less people, unfortunately, are using leadership. I don't see the need with the current content, regardless of your gear. As long as you're of level, I don't see why you need to go down the ultimate tree of the shield tree. It doesn't make any sense to me. That circle is so small, and in whatever content you're doing, it's not going to even cover your entire group most likely, because no one's going to be in a cuddle puddle like that. In wars and outpost rush, whatever it may be, people are not going to be in that tight of a cuddle puddle. So, in my opinion, leadership is a much better ultimate for the sword. It buffs your group, and it doesn't matter how far away from them you get. They will always have their 10% increase. So I just think it's infinitely better. Now, again, because if you go leadership, you do miss out on some of the defensive items over there, but healing is still really good in the game. Your survivability as a tank is really good. Now, if you want to put more points into strength to do more damage, or whatever your off stat is to do more damage and reduce your constitution, sure. I could see then utilizing more of the shield tree in order to get your defenses up if you're reducing your hit points. I like to run 300 constitution in either wars or dungeons, either through food or whatever. So that's where I like to be. Now, once I'm able to finish off and get my voidment completed, I'll be able to reassess my stats at that point and figure out how much I want to drop from constitution. But I like to be at a 300 constitution for any large-scale activities, invasions, war, or outpost rush, just because, again, maybe not outpost rush because I'm not eating, expensive food that often. But definitely for invasions, wars, and dungeons, I will eat the good food. So, I like to stick around, 260, something like that. So when I eat the food, I pop up to 300, and there I go. And I still have enough of my secondary stat. So those are all the weapons. Again, episode 1, we covered the first set of weapons. And so we finished off the weapons now. Again, there are a lot of changes to the game in this particular patch. If you're in the Twitch chat and following along, I put the link in the Twitch chat right now if you would like to see the complete breakdown. If you have not watched or looked up all of the different changes they made in this very, very large patch. If you are listening to this on a podcasting app or watching it on YouTube, it will be in the show notes, so you can check it out there. So the next thing that I promised I would talk about from the last episode was the Void Gauntlet and my thoughts on it now that I've played with it. Here's what I think. I think the Void Gauntlet is cool. I think it's a great supplemental weapon. I don't think it's a primary weapon by any means. If you are a primary user of the Void Gauntlet, as in it's your main damage, like that's your main thing, that's what you have out all the time, like that's what you're using, please let me know how you're doing it. Because from what I can see and how I read it and its abilities, it feels like a secondary weapon to me. Like you have your fire staff and that's your main damage. You switch to your Void Gauntlet for a little AoE, a little fun, and you switch it and fire staff, right? It feels like it's that secondary, right? Life staff, Void Gauntlet, Ice Gauntlet, Void Gauntlet. You've got, all the combinations you can throw the Void Gauntlet in there. And I just feel like it's a good secondary weapon. It has a lot of cool things. Now, in my sciencing, I did do a little sciencing on this, and I actually went Constitution Focus for a tank build, and it's actually kind of fun. It's actually kind of cool. Now, you don't have to do the focus. so much. You can go back to the strength. But what I liked about this is there's a couple of abilities in the Void Gauntlet that buffs the AoE ring around you that you can form that gives it ridiculous stamina regeneration. So if I'm fighting a large group of enemies, either in PvE or PvP, or a boss in PvE, like a dungeon, I can drop that swirly. I can have a Void Gauntlet that has a hatred on it, so increased threat. So I'm generating threat from everything taking damage. And I can put a threat gem in it, right? To increase my threat. So everything's getting pissed off at me when they're taking all that damage. And I can switch back to my sword and shield, and the effects of that swirl, since it's not on me as a Void Gauntlet ability, it is now affecting the area, which means I can hold my shield up and have stupid amounts of stamina regeneration while they're beating on my shield and have my shield up. So it's a really cool combo for a sword user. I'm not using it anymore. It just didn't, it felt fun. It felt cool. But I didn't feel like I was impacting the group as much as I should. It is what it is. It was a cool combo to try out. It's kind of fun. Like I said, if you're a PvE player, you like to do dungeons, you like to do PvE, and you're not really too much into the PvP, I strongly suggest Sword and Void Gauntlet. It's a lot of fun to play with, and you've got infinite stamina, basically, to block whatever attacks are coming in at you. So it's a really cool thing to do. Not too effective in duels, right? Because people just pull you out of the thing, and it doesn't really matter. Unless you're fighting like a musket or a bow user, and they've got some other things that they can do to you anyways. But in a war situation, didn't really do much. Outpost Rush doesn't really do much. Because again, people are knocking you around, stunning you, stuff like that. So again, not that great in those situations, but definitely cool in PvE. Some of the other abilities that the Void Gauntlet has are really fun. I love the scream with the stun. I love the kind of the Overwatch. What is her name in Overwatch? Symmetra. I like her. I like that ability that which shoots the orb out, damages as it comes out, and then heals on its way back in. I think that's a really cool ability. Overall, I think the Void Gauntlet's really good. Now, unfortunately for Amazon Gaming Studios, they made a critical mistake. When introducing the Void Gauntlet. When this game first launched and when wars really started to pick up, people discovered that there was a bug and they exploited it. And that was the Ice Gauntlet. And when you put up the AoE on the Ice Gauntlet, it basically lagged a war or an invasion or an outpost rush to a point where all that you see is a slideshow or players are just frozen in time. You don't know where they are. They can't see. You're just frozen characters. And it was it was an unplayable game when that was happening. And it was a miserable player experience. Unfortunately, they did not do enough QA testing, which pisses me off to no end, on the Void Gauntlet and have reintroduced this lag issue with the Void Gauntlet. Now, since it has been released, it took them, I would say probably around 5 days to a week. And now it's better. It's not solved, but it is much better and the game is playable. It's still not a great player experience because there's still a ridiculous amount of lag in wars and invasions and outpost rush when people are utilizing a lot of Void Gauntlets. It's really bad still, but it's at least not a slideshow and it's at least not a complete unplayable experience. It is playable. It's just a miserable player experience. And from someone who's played Sea of Thieves and rants to no end on proper quality control in your updates, Amazon Gaming Studio, you're already taking ridiculous amounts of heat and hatred from players. A lot of players are leaving. A lot of players are bitching. A lot of players are having a bad time with your game because of bugs, exploits, duping, whatever it may be. People are leaving your game. And the reason for that is you are not quality checking and quality controlling your updates. You're allowing shit to get through the cracks and you're allowing things that you've already fixed to come back. And that is not good development. I understand that you're a relatively new gaming developer. This is your first MMO. This is your first big break. But right now you're failing. You are absolutely failing. When I see the excitement and the hype from the players in the first week, month, going into the second month. Players were excited about this game. We had queue times on servers. People wanted to play this game. Now there's no queue times. Now there are dead servers out there, and now players are not just so interested in playing this game as much as possible, coming home from work, logging right in, going way past their bedtime, such as myself, and still wanting to play more. That appeal has died because of your lack of quality control in your updates and your patches. And you've had multiple issues with duping. You've had multiple issues with ridiculous unplayable lag in your large scale stuff. It needs to stop. There needs to be a better system of quality control. And what I want to just throw out there right now, don't be a game like Sea of Thieves who turns and says, well, we have our insiders program, we've got our beta testing, we've got our PTR, whatever you want to call it. You players should have logged in and tested this stuff and let us know. No. It is nice to have a PTR. It is nice to have like an insiders program or whatever it is for us to get in and see the content ahead of time so we can plan what we're going to do. We can test, we can theory craft, we can whatever we want to do, but it is not our responsibility as the players to quality check your game. It is not our responsibilities as a player to be your QA team. All right. If you want us to be your QA team, then you should be paying me real world money for every minute that I'm on your PTR. If I'm on your PTR, I should be getting a wage, let's say an hourly wage, to test your game. Because I am doing your work for you. I am finding the bugs. I am finding the exploits, and I'm reporting them to you so you can fix it. That is a QA team's job. And right now, whatever QA team you have is failing, and you're expecting the players to get on the public test realm, test this stuff for you, and report it for you. And that is absolutely horrible, and I don't understand why gaming companies are doing it. I don't understand why gaming companies are depending on their players to QA test shit. It is ridiculous. It is asinine, and it's just it's cheaping out. You don't want to pay for more QA testers. You don't want to pay, let's say you don't want to throw money at content creators, or you don't want to throw money at people and saying, hey, we will pay you $10,000 if you test our game for 40 hours this month. If you test our game for 40 hours this month, we'll pay you $5,000. That's how it used to be. Way back in the day when game companies wanted things tested before release, now it wasn't that much money, but I got paid many times to beta test things and public test round things. They would just reach out and be like, it kind of be like they're reaching out to a focus group. Be like, hey, you guys are in this group. You've signed up to be a tester. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to open up the public test round for a week. All right. For every hour that you do this, we're going to pay you $10 or $20 or whatever it was. You know, we used to get paid to do this stuff. Nowadays, game companies are like, well, if you want to know what's coming up, log into our public test realm and test it out. That's bullshit. You are trying to get your players using the hype of whatever you're bringing up to test your game for you. And thus you can pay less to your QA team or not have a QA team or have a small one. And that's absolutely ridiculous. So this needs to stop. Like, releasing updates, releasing patches without them being quality tested is absolutely stupid. And allowing issues like mass lag and unplayable or game-breaking things to slip through the cracks, which have already been fixed before, that's got to stop. This game will die very, very quickly if these things aren't resolved, right? So the war and the lag and the invasions has dropped significantly. It is playable now. Obviously we just did the Everfall war, which is on my YouTube channel, but it is playable. It's still just not a great experience. There's still some lag in there. But if the next update or the next patch comes around and we've got another duping issue, or we've got trade posts shut down because of whatever reason, or we've got more lag introduced because of whatever reason, that's got to stop. These things have to be tested. Game-breaking shit has to be tested. Wars are critical to the health and survival of servers and this game. They are critical. Absolutely critical. They have to be tested. Invasions are critical for the health of this game because that's the high-end stuff to do. Outpost Rush is critical for the survival of this game. And here's the thing with Outpost Rush. I'm not just talking about the lag breaking shit. There's a lot of tuning that needs to be done in Outpost Rush, i.e. the meatball throwing brutes. Those guys have to be tuned somehow. They've got to be tuned. Because right now, Outpost Rush is absolutely ridiculous when you've got 2 or 3 people that are out there farming brutes and put brutes on every single base, or 2 brutes on both sides, and you're being pulled this way and pulled that way. And the brutes are nearly unkillable. Yes, you can kill them, but you are in the heat of battle trying to take a base. And it's making it impossible. Bring their hit points down. Make them killable. Make it if the enemy takes if you have a brute, or if let's say I'm attacking a base and they have a brute, make it so when I take the base, the brute becomes mine. The brute, until dead, is linked to that base. Whoever has the base has the brute. I will tell you, it would change Outpost Rush a lot. But I don't think they're going to do that. I think what they're going to do, I hope what they're going to do, is reduce the health on the brutes. But they really need to make, I like Outpost Rush in the fact that there's a PvE side of it, that players can actually go PvE and feel like they're impacting the game. Upgrade your command tens, man. That thing is ridiculous. That command tent can be the difference between winning and losing sometimes. But I like the fact that they've introduced PvEVP in a PvP arena section. But some of the PvE is just ridiculous. Some of it's just asinine, and those brutes are on the top of the list, and they really, really need to be looked at on something. Either have them flip-flop when the bases change, or have them be actually killable, because right now they're really not killable. So that's my thoughts on that. And some of the issues that they've reintroduced. The other issue, now this one didn't impact me. I just so happened to be up early going to the gym, and I tuned into a New World stream, and it was a European New World stream, and their servers got shut down before Thanksgiving time, I think, soon after this patch hit, because there was an issue with the trading posts and paying taxes for a long time. And so what Amazon attempted to do was actually compensate players for their missing gold that they missed because the trading posts were down or something was bugged out. Unfortunately, again, poor QA testing before they rolled it out. Unfortunately, what happened was a shit ton of players received 300,000 gold. That's economy breaking. That is absolutely economy breaking. That will crush a server's economy so quickly. And they identified it. And soon after that compensation went out, I think it was Europe East, all got shut down for several hours. And what happened is, unfortunately, if you were logged in and playing and got that 300K, or even if you didn't get the 300K, what happened is, for those hours that you were playing between the patch and the identification of the bugged currency, they rolled everything back. They rolled it all back. So you literally wasted your time. You wasted time playing the game, and what you accomplished during that time got rolled back. And that is really, really bad. Just awful. That is horrible, horrible player experience and really bad development work and QA work on that side. That because, and I understand they were trying to make things right by the players, but in that instance, trying to make things right, they made it worse. They made it far, far, far worse by having to review those things. So any European listeners out there, I apologize for that experience, and I hope Amazon takes this more seriously, because if this is a trend, break what we've fixed and then have to fix it again, or shutting critical pieces of the game down because of an exploit or bug that we didn't properly test and got through. That's got to stop. That's got to stop. In this gaming industry, where you have ridiculously amazing games out there and new games coming out all the time, Halo Infinite, you've got Sea of Thieves seasons, you've got Apex seasons, you've got Counter-Strike, whatever, all these seasonal games, you've got Forza Horizon that came out, you've got the Halo campaign coming out, you've got Final Fantasy XIV Endwalker that just released today as of the recording here on December 3rd. World of Warcraft's going to have a big patch coming up. You've got the Star Wars Old Republic patch coming up. It's not just about the MMOs that you compete with in that market. It's about all the games out there. There is so much variety and so much saturation in the gaming world right now that you have to make your game stand out. New World stood out because it was the first game from Amazon Gaming Studios. It had a lot of hype. It had a lot of coverage. Unfortunately, so far, they've fallen flat on maintaining that because they are in a world of saturated games and people are not going to waste their time playing a game that is a bad player experience, playing a game with a lot of bugs and exploits, playing a game that things get reverted back, playing a game where bugs continue to plague the game and make it unplayable for weeks at a time. People are not going to play this game, and you can already see that. I mean, yes, the game from launch, when it was like top 5 all time on Steam as far as number of players logged in, we knew that was going to decline and eventually level out. That's just how the gaming thing, that hype and then it falls back down. But the issue is, I don't believe because of how they're developing and because of how they're failing at quality assurance, I don't think we've hit that level out point. I still think we're dropping and dropping and dropping. Hell, we haven't even got server merges yet. We don't know how they're going to do server merges. How's that going to look? What servers are getting merged? I think what they're hoping is that more players will utilize their free transfers so they have to worry about merges less. Because merges are coming up, and I can only imagine the outrage in a merge. If you're an okay size server and you feel really good about it and you've got several territories controlled, but you're not quite big enough, so you get merged into another server about your size but a little bit bigger, and because they're a little bit bigger, their territories count and yours don't, that's going to be a really bad experience. So they're really going to have to be careful with these server merges, but they also are not going to be able to delay these server merges for very long, because I know I've got a couple friends that they were, not smart in the head and joined my server because I researched the servers I joined. I knew my server was going to last. And the problem is they joined servers with other people. They hopped on the servers that were spun up so they didn't have a queue, whatever the case may be. And now their servers are completely 100% dead. I mean, I'm talking about on my server, it feels dead at times. I mean, but at peak hours, we're hitting, 1,500 players, 1,000 players. We're still hitting pretty good. I've got a friend who has a peak times of like 300-400 players. Like that's hard in New World. Like the game's going to feel empty and dead at that point. So they really need to push forward on server merges, and I'm hoping we're going to get an announcement on that as well. If you are interested in free shit in New World, you can always come over to my channel on Twitch, twitch.tv/Davrim, which if you're watching right now and joining into the live chat, you're getting your drops right now, although most people already have drops. There is a drop going on right now, the Royal Fisherman set. I believe you have to watch 20 or 30 minutes to any New World streamer that is part of the content creator program for them. So they give us the ability to have drops, which right now it's kind of a shitty looking drop with the fisherman set, and yeah. But there's also, if you have Prime Gaming with Amazon Prime, you can also collect your free Autumn King Pack, which has some ridiculous horns on it. So there you go. Fat Looter in the chat says that must be Baj. Wait, what must be Baj? Bajira? Bajira's on my server. He's on your server. Yeah, no, Bajira's not the one I'm talking about. No, it's a real life buddy of mine who is at peak times his server's got like two to like 400 people on peak. Our server's still pretty good. All right, so that's going to do it for episode 2 of the Aethernum News Network. This is a weekly podcast that we do on New World. Please do subscribe on the YouTube. Please do, click the subscribe button or whatever on your podcasting apps. And if you would like to join in the conversation, It'll be recorded every Friday night starting at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's about an hour-long podcast, and then we jump into the game. So thank you very much for watching and listening to the podcast. Take care of yourselves and each other, and I'll see you next time on the Aethernum News Network.